I think that it's a wonderful practice, and I really hope that everybody will be present with us next time we do that. This is very, very informative. It's also a wonderful thing for everybody in the Sangha to be able to do that. Because usually we have a dull one, and we get the fun of it. But we all got to do the fun of it. It's quite wonderful. All together, breathing and coming back to the breath. All together returning. So this is the first talk of the year, and it seems important to mark it with thinking about the earth, the condition of our earth, and our relationship to our earth, our mother, the earth element, without which none of us are. So we have a choice to be aware and honor this earth element or not, and the consequences that follow with however we choose. So as we're all facing the current climate crisis, let's stop calling it a crisis and start saying we are in a time of profound transformation in how the earth behaves. And yet we want to not transform how we behave. And it's not going to work. So I thought we could take up tonight the 5 earth precepts to just give us a beginning of ways to reflect and bring our own little practice, our little, big, vast Dharma practice to the situation we face as natural beings on this earth. So I'm not sure where these earth precepts come from, where I picked them up. I was talking with Sato today and we were thinking, did we write these? I don't know. It may have been we picked it up from another Dharma group. But we are adopting them into our liturgy, so you'll be seeing them. And I actually brought copies for everybody if you want to take a copy home with you. So the earth is our home. We're part of the complexities and the magnificence of our life, of all life. And we take up these 5 vows in awareness of our interdependence with all beings. So that's the opening passage. So this is one of the 3 marks of the true Dharma, which is Buddha Dharma is based on the utter interdependence of everything. Many of you may be familiar with that John Muir quote. When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. Mike, can you hear me? You can move closer if it's. Everything is hitched to everything else in the universe. This is so true, and it's a wonderful thing to explore as a practice. So I thought we would do this all together right now. Choose any object. So we work with the material objects, right? Any object at all. Does somebody want to suggest something?
Flower.
Flower. Okay. So what is the flower dependent on? Well, a flower begins with a seed of some sort, and which drops into the soil. And the soil is filled with microorganisms that provide all kinds of nutrition for this little seed that's growing and sending out roots. Of course, the rain falls, the sun shines. How did this seed get here? Well, probably an animal walked by and pooped it out, or a bird dropped it from its feather, So the wind is involved in this flower, right? I'm not a biologist, so I can't go into all of the specifics of what gives up the color of the flower, and where does the flower fit in the whole offering of life? Who eats this flower? Do you eat flowers? Anybody here eat flowers? Yeah, most of us do. So it can go on and on and on. Somebody brings you a bouquet. Where did that bouquet come from? Could be Peru. Or it could be your garden. How did it get here? Well, maybe we save the seeds that go way, way back to our, like my irises go back to my mother's garden, and she brought them from her mother's garden. And I don't know where my grandmother got them originally, the bulbs for these irises. So we can just keep tracing anything back and back and back, and see all of the ways that it relates to everything else. What happens when you receive a bouquet as a gift? I've done that. I've opened the door of my house and there's a little bouquet somebody has left me. It delights me. And so I'm nicer to everybody I meet. I mean, there's just so many things that we can relate to any one object. Anything. When this first occurred to me, years ago, it occurred to me, I got a letter, and I realized, wow, this paper, where does this paper come from that the letter was written on? And so I started to think about the whole paper making process and how it reaches into so many different areas of activity, and how it finally gets to the person who wrote the paper, wrote the letter, and then there's the ink, and how is that ink produced? And how far back, when did we first start knowing about ink and making ink? How far back does it reach? Did the Egyptians use ink? Yeah. So we can think through time. Anyway, you get the idea. So whenever you come across an object, think about all the ways, everything that went into it getting to you right here at this moment. It's a terrific exercise in appreciation for interdependence and the community that makes all things possible. The earth is our home. This is the beginning of these precepts. The earth is our home. Think of home, where you live. What is a home? It's not just an address. It's not just only residence. In a home, a place that you feel is home, every nook and cranny is known to you, especially if you've been doing any housekeeping. Sometimes you make discoveries. The other day I found this wealth of cobwebs in the ceiling of a closet in my house that I didn't notice. I hadn't looked up in my closet. Every nook and cranny. It's where you stand in your home, where you sit, where you stand, where you walk, where you lie down. How many steps in a day do you take in your home? Every view in a home is intimate. It says, you belong here. You can relax here. You can tend me. You can adorn me. I accompany you. I hold you. Lying in the bed at night, listening to the rain on the roof. Deep feeling of home. And so our actions follow on this recognition of home. And these earth precepts are our guides to appreciating this entire world as our home, regarding it as home, and taking the same kind of care that we take with our particular domicile. How well do you know where you live? The natural environment of your neighborhood. How well do you know it? How carefully do you look? Do you pay attention? What is your sense of this place? Very often in our culture, people are moving a lot. Some of us have been in one home for a long time, and some have moved quite a bit. Many of us at some point in our life did move quite a bit. So that's something to be aware of, is how much will we invest our caring energy in where we live in the community. And this is part of the importance of Sangha, is to understand how everything, everybody, every living being is part of our community. The next, the precept is, I vow not to kill, but rather to take action to encourage the continuity of all life. This earth where we stand is the pure lotus land. That's a line from one of our sutras. Pollution, defilement, squalor are conditions we visit on this pure land. We visit devastation on our home, in the depths of our ignorance and the despair or continuous distraction that ignorance feeds on and engenders. This is how we can do it. It comes from our despair, it comes from our disconnection. The do not kill precepts reach far beyond the material world, referring to all the ways that not paying attention denies the life before us, around us, within us, the life that feeds and nourishes us. The profound loneliness that people are experiencing, that's reported often in studies, comes from this disconnection with our neighborhood. So what feeds the life of flesh, of bark, of root, of leaf, of water, air, light, and darkness? How difficult it can be to experience darkness at night. Do any of you have that issue where you live? You never get to see dark. It's one of the reasons why people in this area are so avid about going out into the woods, because they actually experience darkness at night. And the wonder of the universe at night, the twinkling and the hush that comes. We fear darkness, and yet it's where we truly rest, where our life energies are replenished in the dark and in waking, in zazen. Zazen is a form of dark, of still, of open, nothing filling. How difficult it can be in the ever-presence of electric lights to experience the dark. How difficult it can be in the tumble of media to experience silence. How difficult it can be in the tumble of thoughts to experience silence. And yet, knowing silence, we awaken to wise mind. It's in, first of all, tolerating silence. We're of a clan that is fine with silence, or we intend to be. But that's not necessarily always true. There are some who freak out. Some of you have heard the story of being, when we were still down at the yoga center on Sundays, and some students came fulfilling their requirement to attend a religious service. And they were sitting there, and we started to do zazen, and we just kind of heard this, and they burst out laughing and ran out the door. just couldn't take it. Oh, it's too difficult. I know that state of mind. That's a state of deep vulnerability. It's part of our freak out about dying and death. So knowing silence, we awaken to amazing wisdom. There's so much once we can be silent within, we can observe so much more minutely without and within. Right here where we stand, we have access to penetrating wisdom that flows from just this darkness, silence, or daylight. What actions do you take? What choices do you make? How well are you serving life? How do we relate to the riches of the earth? How much do we honor what we are given? How well do we care for it? I'm just reminding us all of everything we already know. But it's good to come back to basics as we begin a new calendar year, the year 2023. What an abstraction. So we passed out the words to this song, which many of you may already know, but I thought it would be wonderful to sing together a little bit. This is how it goes if you don't know it already. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. The earth is our mother, she will take care of us. The earth is our mother, she will take care of us. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. So you have these words, and you can take them home, and you can just kind of walk around your house and chant this whenever you feel like it. It's kind of catchy, and I don't know, it just lightens my heart when I sing this one. So the next precept is, I vow not to indulge selfish desires, but rather to live simply and appreciate life on our planet. When we use the word selfish, I vow not to indulge selfish desires. It's not used in a judgmentalist way, and it's purely descriptive. Rather, it's a question that asks, how much are you keeping in mind the effect of any personal activity or choice, its effect on the community in the whole, the living earth systems? How much? When I think of selfish desires, I immediately go to thinking when I'm in a grocery store, the co-op, everything that is contained in plastic containers. There's no easy solution but it's something to consider. Maybe there are choices that can be made individually, here and there, or profoundly. I mean, some people are giving up their cars. That's good. But if you live in a small community and you're not really going anywhere much, a bike is great if you buy the community. So each of us can look at our life in all of its dimensions with an intention to simplify. So this is a basic intention. There's not a particular prescription for it. It's just, where can you simplify? And most of us, when we find a way to be simpler, we experience relief. It's really laying down a burden. We carry a lot of burdens that we don't need to carry, actually. So we can notice how much extra is laid upon basic functioning: eating, sleeping, working, serving the community, reading, cooking, walking, singing, and dancing. We all have our list for a full life that's lived really, really completely and joyfully. So what is yours? What is most essential? In the Dharma realm, we say what is most essential is awakening, is being awake, and being in relation to all our relations, being connected, recognizing connection. So this is where we start living with a simplicity of heart, in developing a simplicity of heart. So there's material simplicity. May we all be headed in that direction. Whether we like it or not, I think we are, in the next few generations. But simplicity of heart, that's really something that it's not dependent on anything but our own willingness to be very present and in full relation. The next vow, I vow not to abuse my relationship with the earth and all beings, but rather to care for and cultivate our kinship. I find that very useful, thinking of how am I kin to everything. Walking in the woods, the trees, the shrubs, the grasses, insects, moss, squirrels, birds, beetles, slugs, newts. All the seen and unseen creatures are kin. The rocks in the path are kin. The clouds are kin. Rain is kin. The sun is kin. We're all part of this big elemental family. And when realizing this, there is no loneliness. So we can really take up that kinship practice, recognizing everything as kin. There's a beautiful little drawing that I have on my refrigerator that Rosie did when she was 4 of a VW bug, and it's really cute because it captures the kinship relationship of this little 4-year-old to cars. It's just a little being there, very, very cute. And maybe that's one reason why we love children's drawings, because they're all about kinship. So that thing about when you're really down, it doesn't fail to go into the woods and hug a tree. Stand in the presence of the shrubs, feel the gravel on your feet, listen to the birds, feel the rain. The next one is, I vow not to spread lies, but rather to learn about and speak honestly about the environmental crisis affecting all life. We're thrashing about in amongst all the lies that are being told about the current natural situation. So this precept reminds us that we're responsible to study and be informed, not to hide from information. This too is our practice. Seeking it from reliable sources to the best that we can discern. Right? And anything that we learn is not absolute, but it is suggestive of careful studying and looking at phenomena. And then we also can share the clear observation of our own senses. We don't live in ways that, we make sure that we don't live in ways that cloud the senses. That's one of the 10 great precepts. Refrain from intoxication, right? Clouds the senses, clouds the mind. And to do this requires being tuned into our thoughts and emotions, which can skew whatever we observe or don't observe, whatever we observe or whatever we ignore. How many things do you not notice? I don't notice a lot. And then this is a lying precept, so it also means, what do we know? What is our opinion? How do we state it? So how do we use our speech? The media is a vast web of information, but mostly it's elusive and emotional presentation of the world. Really, really interesting to listen to just about any report and see how selected and pointed it is, and how much unstated bias or value is placed in it. This is what hopefully kids are starting to tune into, and I think a lot of kids are tuning into this. A lot of schools are misinforming children about how to listen to media. So learning to listen, to question without a thick overlay of our own fear and righteousness. This brings us back to the don't know mind that we all investigate. No matter what we know, there's so much more that we don't know. And we're all practicing in this regard. We're practicing the middle way, which is reliable and doesn't forget about the dangers of any particular view if it becomes fixed and narrow in this very interdependent universe. So there's always more to be seen about our own minds, about our own beliefs and actions. The middle way is enacted in our habits of speech and also habits of consumption. So that's another thing that is a good thing to take a look at. It's one of the blessings of having reduced income, because you really have to stop and think about what is absolutely necessary. And is there another way to do something that doesn't require a money exchange? So that's another I think, really powerful practice, is looking at in any day, how often is money handed over for something? Is that necessary? So that's another form of how we use our energies, how we use our life. And then the next one is, I vow not to engage in practices that lead to confusion for myself or others, but rather to maintain awareness and to cultivate wholesome action. So what practices lead to confusion?
Lying.
Lying. Good one. In all of its degrees and forms. What else? Leads to confusion.
Not fulfilling your responsibilities.
Not fulfilling responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
You know you have them, but you just, yeah. What else?
Being in a rush.
Yeah, hurry up. Leads to confusion and spillage.
Chasing after things.
Chasing after things as substitutes for states of mind. Yeah.
Belief. Belief.
Belief. Belief in opinions, thoughts, yep.
Getting carried away by emotions.
Yeah. Without realizing it.
Yeah, without realizing it.
Yeah.
Doubt.
Doubt. Leads to confusion. Being stoned or drinking a whole lot of alcohol can lead to confusion. Eating a lot of junk food can lead to confusion and lots of emotion. Misusing sexual energy, definitely,
Every time.
can lead to a lot of confusion. You say misusing, not sexual energy is bad, but misusing it. So where does it belong? What is it? You know, where does it fit in a way that is life enhancing? Leads to the enlightened characteristic of joy. So wholesome action is conducive to health, to clarity, not being swept away, but being aware when things arise and choosing a way to act that deepens being awake and aware. And knowing what is it that helps you do that? This is, so many of these concepts seems really fancy, but actually they're very simple, knowing you tend to be clearer if you go out and walk around the block, if you triggered in some emotional state. So wholesome actions that affect the environment, well, find anything that doesn't. A wholesome action that affects the environment positively. Wholesome action is based in clarity, presence, and kind of true perception of the conditions that you're faced with. So it's important to think, we use this word wholesome, which can have a Grant Wood kind of connotation to it, or goody-goody, but wholesome action really is anything that is accurate and leads to well-being, leads to clarity and goodness. Looking at containers for, the products that you buy, what alternatives there are. Often that means cooking at home. And that means having more of a relationship to your food. Does everybody know what Brussels sprouts look like when they grow? Okay, make sure that you do. That's Dharma practice. Here's a stalk of Brussels sprouts. I gotta take a look. And I was thinking also today, as I was putting this together, of a job that I had when I was cooking in a restaurant. And the person who owned this restaurant was a fabulous cook. And I was so surprised when I got the job that there were not a lot of, there's not a lot of equipment. There were really good knives. There were really good cooking pots. there were some great risks. One of the things I had to do was make a batter with egg whites. And I said, well, where's the mixer? And she said, show me your arm, that's the mixer. She gave me a whisk, and I learned how to do that pretty quickly. Built quick muscles. But I was so struck by that. What a wonderful way to approach, and the food was great there. It was because every part of the food was tended to in full relation. The cooks really worked with real food. So these precepts support us in how our Dharma way can contribute to the quality of life on our Mother Planet, on Mother Earth. We always bring our practice to every aspect of our daily life. I want to end by quoting something that Sato wrote that I thought was beautifully stated. It says, in the future, we will need spaces of silence and clarity and kindness. In the future, we will need to honor the virtues of generosity, service, humility, and creativity over celebrity and wealth. In the future, we will need to find pleasure in the simple delight in what is beautiful and fulfillment in spiritual friendship. In the future, we will need to forego flying in favor of inner travel to the uncharted wilderness in the deep mountains of our hearts. In the future, we will need a moral teaching that is not dogmatic, but is self-reflective and sees clearly the impact of our choices. In the future, we will need to learn how to both heal and let go. In the future, we will need one another in order to know who we truly are.
Please turn to page 5.